This morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 32, Entanglement in Fruitive Activities, text 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Pravesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Before reading Srimad Bhagavatam and discussing today's shloka, I would like to ask blessings and permission of all the assembled devotees to try and say something pleasing to their hearts. I just happened to be transiting Sydney on the way to New Govardhan. The first time actually I'm visiting Sydney, and if it were up to me, I would have rather sitting somewhere among you, listening to some of you discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, but somehow I wasn't offered that option. So please forgive me for sitting here in front of you on my first visit. But since it's also a service, I will ask your permission and blessings to say something that would be in tune with Srila Prabhupada's mood and in tune with his instructions. So today's verse number 8 is on the board. Dviparardha vasaneyah. Dviparardha vasaneyah. Pralayo brahmanastute. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka. Parasya parachintaka. Dviparardha vasaneya. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka.
Dviparardha vasaneya. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka.
Dviparardha vasaneya. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka.
Dviparardha vasaneya. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka.
Vaishnavis, please.
Dviparardha vasaneya. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka. Dviparardha vasaneya. Pralayo brahmanastute. Tavadadhyasate lokam. Parasya parachintaka.
So, word for word. Dviparardham. Two parardas. Avasane. at the end of.
At the end of.
Yaha,
Yaha,
which.
which.
Pralayaha,
Pralayaha,
death.
death.
Brahmanaha,
Brahmanaha,
of Lord Brahma.
of Lord Brahma.
To, indeed.
Indeed.
Te,
Te,
they.
they.
Tavad,
Tavat,
so long.
so long.
Adhyasate,
Adhyasate,
dwell.
dwell.
Lokam,
Lokam,
on the planet.
on the planet.
Parasya,
Parasya,
of the Supreme.
of the Supreme.
Parachintakaha,
Parachintakaha,
thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha expansion of the Personality of Godhead remain within this material world until the end of two pararthas, when Lord Brahma also dies. Purport: one dissolution is at the end of Brahma's day, and one is at the end of Brahma's life. Brahma dies at the end of two pararthas, at which time the entire material universe is dissolved. Persons who are worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, do not directly approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha. They remain within this universe on Satyaloka or other higher planets until the end of the life of Brahma. Then with Brahma they are elevated to the spiritual kingdom. The words Parasya Para Achintakaha mean always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or being always Krishna conscious. When we speak of Krishna, this refers to the complete category of Vishnu Tattva. Krishna includes the three Purusha incarnations, namely Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, as well as all the incarnations taken together. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. Lord Krishna is perpetually situated with his many expansions such as Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Vishnu, and Narayana. He exists with all his plenary portions and the portions of his plenary portions, and each of them is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Parasya, Parachintaka mean those who are fully Krishna conscious. Such persons enter directly into the kingdom of God, the Vaikuntha planets, or if they are worshippers of the plenary portion, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, they remain within this universe until its dissolution, and after that they enter. The verse again. Viparardha vasaneyah pralayo brahmanastute tavat adhyasate lokam parasya parachintakaha. Worshippers of the Hiranyagarbha expansion of the Personality of Godhead remain within this material world until the end of two pararthas, when Lord Brahma also dies. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shamakaya Shakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Statitam Yena Bhutane Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantika Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Rupada Kamala Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Saradutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Valita Shri Vishakanavitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopishako Antaradha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha Pachitana Bhavunibhyo Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Mangaite Grim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundina Taranam. Just to place this verse in a broader context, it's towards the end of Lord Kapilada's instructions to Devahuti, and he has already described pure devotional service at length, ending in chapter 29. But then all of a sudden, Lord Kapiladeva again describes adverse fruitive activities and the movements of the living entities with many graphic descriptions of hellish planets and sufferings of the living entity within the womb of his mother. He also describes the pernicious effects of attachment between the male and female principle in all species of life. And one may wonder why all of a sudden he goes back to where Devahuti's inquiry started, because that's what she started asking him about in the very beginning. And there are many ways to explain that, but one, a very practical, important principle is that there is no stage of devotional service at which a devotee being situated in the material world, at least externally, is allowed to forget about the dangerous condition of the material world. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that there are many obstacles on the path of devotional service, and one of the important and a very tricky obstacle is not to be aware of obstacles on the path of devotional service. If one doesn't know the trappings, the pitfalls on the path to the Supreme Personality of God, the likelihood, the chance is that he or she will fall victim of that insidious trapping which is there, will catch him unawares. So that's why you would say Kapiladeva instructs us through Devahuti to make us aware of how careful we should be being situated in the material world. Srila Prabhupada, in his incredible ability to summarize essential spiritual truths in very succinct form, he says that no one should consider himself or herself liberated in the presence of a beautiful member of the opposite sex. No one should consider oneself to be liberated. And he himself was a very ideal example of that. Many times Prabhupada, as a true acharya, instructed his disciples about the dangers of material activity. And once he was quoted as saying, I think it was in Germany, when he told devotees that I cannot fall victim of Maya because I always pray not to fall victim of Maya, and I'm always aware of Maya's influence and her strength and power, and I am afraid of her. Unlike you. You're not afraid, but I am afraid. At least that's how he said. Of course, we know that such devotees as Srila Prabhupada, as we know from many other verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are completely immune to the allurements of Maya. That's their inner glory, inner state of being completely immunized and impervious to Maya's influence. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna is described as being completely aloof from any attractions, not only of the material world, or material energy, which hides behind his back. So he can't even look at her, because she doesn't present herself in front of him. Vilajamanaya yasyasthatam ikshapate muya. Maya Devi always hides behind Krishna's back. So he cannot look at her because she doesn't present herself in front of his glance. But even the most attractive display of his spiritual energy, as revealed in the case of Dwaraka Ranis, the queens of Dwaraka, couldn't allure Krishna's transcendental senses. Itadishanam ishasya prakriti sthati tad gunaich na yunjate tadatmasthair. It says there in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that this is the Ishanam ishasya, this is the, I would say, the supreme position of the Supreme Controller. Even if he's situated within the midst of, in the midst of the most attractive displays of his energies, he's not attracted, unless he wants to. When he wants to become attracted, he is attracted. But then it says something important for us. He says that those who take shelter of Krishna, they're also as immune as he is, as long as they take shelter of his lotus feet. So Kapiladeva again serves a stark reminder of the power of his material energy. And then in the 33rd chapter, concluding words, the concluding exchanges between Kapila Deva and Devahuti, Devahuti will present her conclusions, the essence of Lord Kapila Deva's instructions when she starts to glorify the holy name of Krishna. Hobato Shvapachato Gariyam Jihvargivartate Namatubhyam. Even if someone hailing from the most degraded conditions of material life of human society, somebody who is called a Shvapacha, a dog eater, if he happens to chant at least one name of Krishna, at least once, any name, and touching the name of Krishna with his tip of his tongue, then Tepustapaste, he is considered to have already performed all austerities. Juhuvuh, he has already performed all yagyas. Sasnur, he has taken bath in all holy rivers and lakes. Brahmanachur, Namagrinantia, he has already studied all the Vedas. What to speak of those who chant, who get together at Shri Radha Gopinath and chant the holy name sincerely every day for 2 hours. Like that. So this is an important part of his instructions to make us serious and alert to the possibility of falling down from any condition of spiritual life. And that fear of being dragged back to the previous material conditioning is also an important part of devotees' dependence on Krishna. As we read in the Nectar of Devotion, devotees offer to Krishna different kinds of prayers. Like today, I assume we're going to start chanting the Damodarashtakam prayers, which also combine both the description of Krishna's, I'm looking right, Krishna's Damodar, stealing butter right there, at Krishna's wonderful, all-enchanting appearance, his form, with his earrings swinging back and forth, and his beautiful cheeks, and the curly hair, and his eyes, restless eyes, and his leelas, how he was caught by Mother Yashoda, even though he cannot be caught by the yogis meditating for thousands of years, till he gets caught by Mother Yashoda. But then also the author of that prayer expresses himself in utter humility, saying that I am like a wretched, miserable, fallen soul who has that aspiration which cannot be fulfilled, but still I want it. This is a devotee's, you could say, maybe it's too much of a strong word, audacity, because he and she, they understand that this goal is unattainable. Krishna cannot be attained by anyone, even Lord Brahma and his worshippers, the worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of God, even they, having lived in this material world for as long as this material world exists, still don't go to the spiritual world. And now we expect to go, within, I don't know how many years we can expect to live. It's also unexpected, We may expect or plan to live for 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 years, but it might not come true. They have that guaranteed span of life. There are no casualties. There is no emergencies, no natural calamities up there on Satyaloka, but still, having practiced for 100 of Lord Brahma's years, they don't get that access to the supreme abode of Krishna. So devotees know it's unattainable. But then in their display of spiritual audacity, they say, but I want. I know I cannot get it, but I want. And I don't know what to do with this desire which cannot be fulfilled. All I can do is I approach you and ask you, please fulfill it. Because you have a way of fulfilling impossible desires. Like Srila Prabhupada says, and now I told you that I was meditating that connection between Srila Prabhupada's arrival here in Sydney, carrying Shri Radha Gopinath. I was told he was literally carrying Srimati Radharani on his lap, even though there are some different accounts. Someone said that Begavan Prabhu, who accompanied Srila Prabhupada from Delhi and through Kuala Lumpur, he carried Srimati Radharani, but maybe they switched occasionally. At least Prabhupada personally accompanied Shri Radha Gopinath here to Sydney. And this famous prayer of Srila Prabhupada, which I hope is not limited to Sydney. When he said, I hope it's not your monopoly, that Prabhupada prayed, "Dear Shri Radha Gopinath, please, I leave you in the hands of, mildly put it, devotees who are not exactly there yet. They're not exactly qualified to worship you, but you're very merciful. So please take care of yourself and help them care for you and serve you. And please accept, by extension, please accept their imperfect service as perfect. They cannot worship you perfectly. They can't even worship you, full stop. But please, that's the hope that we have. Actually, whatever we have in spiritual life is the Bhagavatam we read, the holy name we chant, and the deities we worship. Even that faith, the self-evident truth of Krishna's presence in our life is a gift by Srila Prabhupada. We haven't done, at least I cannot say for myself, because you're a very exalted devotee. Some of you might be, as Prabhupada once said in the class, he just surveyed the audience of devotees in front of him and said, some of you are goddess and goddesses and the yogis and rishis. Some of you have practiced devotional service for many years. Some. But most of you are just fortunate. You're just lucky. You got that fortune. And he was there, fortune personified, sitting in front of him. He is a fortune. So that fortune comes in the form of Srila Prabhupada to all of our lives, and we can extend that prayer he offered to Shri Radha Gopinath here to all of us, to entire ISKCON, and not just 50 years ago, but it's still very much valid and very much relevant for all of us, because whatever we do, that self-evident presence of Krishna is His mercy. He is the attractive force that makes Krishna willing and eager, or at least tolerant, to be present in our lives. And that's why, speaking about the connection, here in this verse we read about Dvipararda, which is the two halves of Lord Brahma's life. Sociologists sometimes divide people's life into halves. They say there is I want to say anything specific, not to offend anyone who is past that age mark, but around like midlife. Okay, let's put it that way, the midlife. And before that, a man or a woman is full of aspirations and full of eagerness and anxiety and looking forward to the bright future. But then at that point of time, somewhere between, I don't want to attach an age to that. Shall I? 40, 50, 60, 70. I guess as you age, that mark moves, at least my experience. I just got past 50 last year, so as you approach that mark, you think, no, it's not over yet. Anyway, there is a climb, and then there is a, what do you call it? Decline, no. Anyway, eagerness turns into wisdom. You could put it this way. People become wise. Having expected things that have never come true, they start thinking about the future. And for devotees, actually, it's the best part of the life, I was told. Sometimes Prabhupada even joked with his disciples, young and impetuous and eager and full of energy, youthful energy. And Prabhupada would wisely look at them and chuckle and say, you're too young to work hard for Krishna. He would say, you're too young to work hard for Krishna. And he himself worked so hard for Krishna, nobody could keep up with him. Even on his morning walks, nobody could keep up with him, and nobody could even come close to how hard he worked for Krishna. So Lord Brahma, he is, according to our sources, he's just past his 50 years. So Dvipararda, he has these two halves of his life. I was wondering why that division is always described throughout the Bhagavatam. Maybe that's the reason why Lord Brahma becomes mature in his spiritual life. Everyone has his or her stage of maturity. Sometimes that maturity comes very early. And we saw devotees who joined ISKCON in many places, like in Russia. And from the very beginning, they displayed incredible maturity. Like one devotee who came back in 2004, came as a bhakta, and he came to our ashram and he said, I want to learn only two things. I want to, shall I tell you what he wanted to learn? He said, I wanted to learn only two things: how to chant Hare Krishna and how to distribute Prabhupada's books. And he stayed true to his plan. For 7 years he did that, and then after 7 years he departed, left this world in Vrindavana, under very auspicious circumstances, Radhika Raman Prabhu. And during his life he manifested incredible qualities, incredible absorption in Krishna Kirtan, incredible absorption in preaching. Sometimes he would walk out in the streets and he would just carry stacks of books, and people would just approach him because of his effulgence and they didn't understand what attracted them to him. They would just come begging for books from him. And sometimes he would play with them. He would say, no, they're not for you, they're my books. And the guy, I was told this story, and the guy said, no, I want to have the book. No, they're too difficult to understand, very complicated language, Sanskrit. You won't understand them. And no, I want to buy. They're very expensive. And the story goes, the man, out of his eagerness to get the book, he just got inspired by that devotee. He snatched the book out of his hands and he thrust a bunch of banknotes into Radhika Raman's hands, and he ran away. Like that. True story. So we don't know who comes to our movement sometimes. Devotees who have been practicing for many years, many lifetimes, come just to complete their project here and inspire so many of us on the way. So there is a state of maturity, and Lord also Vyasadeva in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam is described as having compiled Srimad Bhagavatam at the point of his maturity. Again, speaking of Vyasadeva as a plenary expansion of the Supreme Lord, literary incarnation, and then we talk about his maturity. What is that supposed to mean? And one explanation is that his maturity happened when he decided to, or had to, should I say, he didn't decide, but he had to. He was sitting there meditating on his incompleteness. He felt hollow and empty. Having written all the Vedas and all the Upanishads, he felt unaccomplished. And he didn't know what to do. Even though the entire knowledge was already compiled by him, he didn't know what to do. And then his spiritual master came smiling. And he told him, are you happy identifying yourself with the body and the mind as the objects of self-realization? He chastised him. And when he decided to surrender to his spiritual master's instructions, Narada Muni, and the complete truth and the source of his satisfaction and fulfillment became revealed to him in his meditation in the 7th chapter in the 1st canto. So we could say, applying Vyasadev's example to our lives, our spiritual maturity happens when we become determined to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That's when our devotional service bears fruit. Maturity means when the tree bears fruit. Like I'm going to New Govardhan, and usually around that time of the year, February, January, they have mango trees full of fruits. So that's you could say, the stage of maturity of the farm, at least of the mango trees. The same way, our devotional service bears fruit that can be relished by Krishna and devotees and living entities in general when we decide to, or succeed in surrendering ourselves to the instructions of the spiritual master. Prabhupada even explains in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that the determination to stick, and that's the word he used, stick to the instructions of the spiritual master is tantamount. He uses that word. Tantamount means completely equal in all respects to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. That's how we see him. And he continues to explain it's not that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is somewhere in the bushes of Vrindavana. You cannot see them. He is not there for you to see. But when you follow the instructions of the spiritual master, there and then you'll be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. There is no difference in essence between these two conditions, seeing the Lord and following the instructions of the spiritual master. Actually, the Lord becomes eager to see you, as we were told by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and his words were repeated by Srila Prabhupada over and over again. So that's why, going back to where we started, devotee feels helpless. No, actually not helpless. It's not the right word. Hopeless. Not help. But he understands that there is help. I'm hopeless to attain anything tangible in devotional service by my own efforts. As Rupa Goswami says, actually all three of them, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami, there is a wonderful prayer which they offer. I wonder if that prayer was actually meant for public display, because it's something very private. But Krishna is very eager to reveal the glories of his devotees, so sometimes he reveals their private inner thoughts, so they could glorify his devotees even further. So they write Prema na prema shravana di bhakti rapiva yogot havai vaishnavu, etc. They say that I don't have prema, and then I don't have any shravanadi bhakti sadhana. I cannot even do it properly, because sadhana is supposed to bring prema as a vehicle for prema, but I cannot do it properly. Shravanadi bhakti. Like every morning after Mangalarati, we chant that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yadi Shravana Kirtan. Just slip my hand. Yeah, Bahujanma. Yeah. That we may chant for many years, but still, if we commit offenses, we will not attain premadhana, the wealth of prema. So Rupa Goswami says, I don't have any even accomplishments in sadhana bhakti. Also, I don't have yogyata or eligibility for being a Vaishnava, means faith. I don't have that faith, it's transcendental faith, to become a Vaishnava. And then the next line he says, I don't have knowledge, I don't have any Shubha karma, I don't have any pious activities, and also I don't have any favorable birth, says Rupa Goswami, who was born as a Karnataka Saraswati Brahmana. I don't have anything. What do you have? And then he says, Hina tvardika tzadiki. The only thing I have is that faith, the hope, the aspiration, which is achedya mula sati, means you cannot uproot it from my heart. It's unaprootable. What is that hope? Because the hope is that you, my Lord, you are known as hinarthadika sadiki. You are the one who gives the most precious things to the most wretched people. And that's me. And that hope that you can and probably will give me that most desirable thing, just because I don't deserve it, but I really want it. That hope burns my heart, because even that hope is not mine. Somebody gave it to me. Who is that somebody? It's Srila Prabhupada, in our case. Because he just gave freely to everyone. And if you give this, you give everything. Because if you give that hope and faith in Krishna as the most merciful, the most munificent, and the most compassionate Lord, not because we deserve his compassion, but because Srila Prabhupada asked for his compassion upon us, and we have a hope. And that's why Uddhava, when he concludes again his discussion with Lord Krishna towards the end of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says speaks a very important verse, which ties up our discussion so far with this verse today. He says, Naivo payatya upachitim kavayota vesha. He says, my Lord, great transcendental poets and kavis, thinkers and munis, they cannot express their indebtedness to you, even if they live for Dvipararda, for the life of Brahma. They cannot express how they are indebted to you, how grateful they are to you, for one simple reason. They say, and also the next line, he says, Brahma Yushapi, if they live for 100 years of Lord Brahma, Kritam Ridda Udam Smarantaha, they remember, and that remembrance increases their gratitude to you over and over again, more and more. What is that? What are they so grateful for? He says, Acharya Chaitya Vapushe, Svagatim Yanakti. They are grateful to you for one simple, maybe not so simple thing, because you have revealed yourself or manifested yourself in their lives in two forms. One is Chaitya, Guru, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma in the heart. Another one is Acharya from within, from without, externally, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart, and as the spiritual master from without. So these two forms of yours combinedly create great gratitude and appreciation, indebtedness in their hearts. And they cannot express their gratitude to you even if they live 100 years of Lord Brahma's life, like that. So, as they say, count your blessings. We cannot. We don't have enough fingers to count. Even if you use toes, we cannot count the blessings that we get from Srila Prabhupada. And the verse also made me remember some of Prabhupada's statements. Some traditional Vaishnavas find such statements outrageous by Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada wasn't afraid to create outrage in some of his contemporaries, traditional Brahmanas and even Vaishnavas, even his own god brothers. Not just by statements, because statements are very easy to make. But Prabhupada backed them up with the success stories of his disciples. Like, for instance, he says, it's a very well-known fact that one cannot attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead or perfection of one's spiritual life in one lifetime. It's impossible. Simply, but it's impossible. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the quickest it gets is 3 lives. The first life, one has to spend the entire life in Vrindavana and chant how many rounds? 64 minimum. It's like the minimum, the bare minimum. Cannot get smaller than that. And never leave Vrindavan, even during the cold or hot seasons. Stay there, live on bhiksha, means alms, and chant. And that's all. Never leave Vrindavan. And die in Vrindavan, then what? You take birth in Vrindavan again as a local resident who are naturally attached to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada once was having a discussion with his disciples, and he emphasized how important it is to have a spiritual master and follow his instructions, or her instructions. And without that, one can never even have a hope to attain perfection of spiritual life. And then somebody asked him about Vrajavasis. What about Vrajavasis? Prabhupada said, Vrajavasis is a different story. They have Krishna as their spiritual master. It doesn't apply to them. So then you take birth again in Vrindavan and spend one lifetime as those kids at Govardhan, or they harass you when you go there. Pull on your sleeves or pull on your sari or dhoti. Ektaka. Right? Those kind of kids, or those kind of Vrajavasis, they seem to be in poverty, seem to be in need, but actually if you look at them, they're much more complete and accomplished than most of us, at least I can say about myself. Once I was there walking on Govardhan Parikrama, and I deliberately didn't take any money with me. It's a life hack. You don't take any money with you, and then when they ask you, you say, I don't have any money. And I'll look at that pocket, and I turn it inside out. No, there's no money. And also here, no money. And here, no money. Again, okay, useless, and they walk away. Like that. So it's a way to get away from them. So I was walking like that, and I came to Radha-kund, and those small children, girls and boys, they walk around with small blocks of Radha-kund clay. So one girl came to me asking me, okay, take one for 10 rupees. And I don't have any money, nothing. And she looked at me with compassion. And she gave me one piece of that clay. Said, okay, take it. No money, just take. That was very embarrassing for me. Just take. You're so poor, don't have any 10 rupees. Okay, just take Srimati Radharani's mercy without any money. Like that. So you take births like them. Live there, die there, and then what's next? Next is the universe where Lord Krishna manifests his pastimes, and you go to the universe where he is present and take part in his pastimes. And then that's the last time. last birth in this material world, then you go with him. But look at what Srila Prabhupada says. I have a quote. It's a wonderful quote. Again, when dealing with Srila Prabhupada's statements, we shouldn't be misled by their apparent ostensible simplicity. Some devotees, unfortunately, even try to explain them away by quote-unquote preaching techniques. Okay, Prabhupada, he didn't really mean to say that, but he said it just because he wanted to trick us into following him. And this is such a lame explanation. Well, I don't want to use strong words, but I already used one. But somehow they don't understand the position of Acharya. Acharya is someone who can make statements that Krishna will uphold. I'll have another quote for that from Prabhupada, but I'll read it a bit later. I have time. But listen to this quote. Srila Prabhupada says, it's a discussion at the Srimad Bhagavatam class in Hawaii. I think Hawaii. Here it is. Just a second. Yeah, here it is. The whole devotee. Please forgive me for reading a bit long, but again, it's Prabhupada's personal words, so can't get any better. Devotee asks, Prabhupada, you said that devotees, after becoming fully pious, have to take another birth in the material world and in somewhere where Krishna is performing his pastimes before going back to Vaikuntha? Prabhupada says, there is no difference, because you approach Krishna. Tyakta deham punarjanma. He comes to me, Krishna, when he is there, just like Krishna was on this planet, to live with Krishna and to go to Goloka Vrindavana and to live with Krishna. There is no difference. Devotee continues, is this birth, and I'm so grateful to this devotee for asking this question, is this birth we have now considered in Krishna's pastimes? This Sankirtana movement is part of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. It was a very tricky question. I mean, in a good sense. Directly, Sanatana Goswami was asking Lord Chaitanya tricky questions. Did I get you right that in this age of Kali, the incarnation of Krishna is recognized by him being surrounded by devotees, Trishavarna Trisha Krishnam, golden color, and they're always chanting? Lord Chaitanya felt cornered by Sanatana Goswami. He said, okay, just give up your tricks. Let's move on to Manvantara avatars. So Srila Prabhupada says, when devotee asks, is this Sankirtana movement part of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes? Prabhupada, I don't follow. Sasrup Maharaj repeats the question. Is this life, the present life, is this also being with Krishna's pastimes because Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtana movement is Krishna's pastimes? In other words, the implication of this question is, okay, the standard practice, the standard, you could say, trajectory is you take birth, as we explained, then you go to Vrindavan, chant for your entire life, 64 rounds, no less than that. Then die, take birth again in Vrindavan, then die, provided you don't leave Vrindavan and go somewhere like to Australia to earn money. Because so many of them leave, actually. You go to the West, go to America, or go to other parts of the world to earn money. So provided you don't do that, you stay in Vrindavan and you maintain your connection with Krishna. And then you take birth again in the universe where Lord Krishna performs his pastimes. And only then and there you'll be able to complete your spiritual life and go to the spiritual world. So that's the implication. And this devotee is asking, is this lifetime considered to be in Krishna's pastimes? Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continues his lila, continues his Sankirtana movement. Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that one should never think that the Nitya Siddhas of Nitya liberated souls of Lord Chaitanya's personal companions were there 500 years ago, and they stayed there. No, he said. Was that Gaurangera Sangha Janya Nitya Siddha Karimani? He quotes Narottam Das Thakur. And he says, anyone who takes part in the Sankirtana movement, even to this day, is supposed to be considered a Nitya Siddha devotee, eternally liberated. You could add, as long as he takes part in that movement. So Prabhupada continues. He says, that the question that was asked again for Prabhupada, So this Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement is Krishna's pastimes, because if it is, then that's the universe. That's the last universe. We're in Krishna's pastimes, in the universe where he performs his pastimes, and this is our last life, right? Very logical. And Prabhupada says, what do you think he says? Let me ask you to this question. What he should have said to be consistent. He said, yes. Yes. Twice he says, yes, yes. If you actually remain with Sankirtana, that means you are with Krishna. Therefore, he is called Jivan Mukta Savuchyate. He is liberated even in his body. He is liberated because Krishna and Krishna's name is not different. Absolute. Abhinatvam nama naminaha. Nama chitamani Krishnas. Anyway, he continues here. But that reminded me of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's statement. There is a nice book written of his conversations with intellectuals of his time. And in one of those conversations, he speaks about two categories of devotees of Lord Chaitanya. One is called Gaura Bhakta, another one is called Gaura Sangha. So Gaura Bhakta is someone who worships Lord Chaitanya in his or her house, worshiping the deity of Lord Chaitanya, chants Hare Krishna. That's okay, it's very nice. But Gaura Sangha, he says, is someone who lives with the mood of Lord Chaitanya, separation. And because of that mood, she tries to give Lord Chaitanya to others. And that's the one who is liberated already. He's taken part in preaching, in other words. So that's why Prabhupada was so bold and promising to us. And now I can give you another quote. I think we'll conclude with this quote. We have 5 minutes. Maybe you'll have some comments or corrections, or you share some inspirations with everyone here, including myself. But this is what Prabhupada says. I have to confess, this is one of my favorite quotes. And I quote it all the time. And I want to continue quoting this quote by Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur in 1976. Srimad Bhagavatam class, Prabhupada speaks on Prahlada Maharaja's teachings. And Prahlada Maharaj just offered prayers to Lord Narasimhadeva, asking him to let him stay with his spiritual master's instructions. He said, I don't want to even go to the spiritual world. All I want to do is continue serving my spiritual master. Like that. So, Prabhupada explains, therefore, he said, he means Prahlada Maharaj, that tat britya rishi vakyam ritam vidhatam, rishi vakya. Even the devotee or the servant of Krishna says something, even if it's wrong, Krishna upholds this. Again, think about Radha Gopinath. It's wrong. Actually, it's an offense on the part of the acharya or spiritual master to entrust Krishna in the hands of a unqualified disciple, because then he's also an accomplice to that offense. He's complicit in that offense that his disciples will commit. But Prabhupada his compassion was beyond that standard principle. So Prabhupada says here, even if a devotee or servant of Krishna says something, even if it's wrong, Krishna upholds this. Kauntiya pratijani hinami bhakta pranashiti. So even if it's wrongly done, still Krishna fulfills, because he thinks that, well, my servant has promised, it must be fulfilled. Must be fulfilled. Therefore, Prahlada Maharaj in the previous verse, he has said, Tava Britya Parshva. So to serve the servant of Krishna is better than to serve Krishna directly. Because if the servant of Krishna promises something, now this is the punchline here. Because if the servant of Krishna promises something, if the servant of Krishna says, quote, I'll take you to Krishna Loka, unquote, you must go there. You must go there. Even if he says, I'll take you to Krishna Loka, you must go there. And then Prabhupada says, even Krishna cannot do that. How do you like it? Even Krishna. Now, we have a choice. Prabhupada says that, and according to his logic, even if this is not correct, Krishna will make it correct. Like that. If even Krishna cannot do it, he can. I mean to say that he doesn't say very easily, but if a servant, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada, therefore our philosophy is to please the servant of God. Tat Britya, Brityasya Britya. This is very nice. The success is, and Prabhupada doesn't finish the sentence, so that silence in the end of the sentence is very meaningful. The success is ... Success is what? Uncertain? Guaranteed. Like that. So that's what I felt inspired to speak about. Having read that verse, I was thinking about how these devotees, worshippers of Hiranyagarbha, have to spend so much time in this material universe waiting for their deliverance. Even that is not guaranteed and not certain. But following Srila Prabhupada and his simple formula that he empowered with his two things, compassion towards us and devotion to Krishna. So he is like the connector, the interface, speaking in technical jargon. He is the interface between us with all our shortcomings and the spiritual realm, which is otherwise completely unattainable for us. Thank you very much. And today is a very auspicious day, beginning of Kartika Vrata, and today we celebrate the attainment of unattainable gifts or results, exemplified by Mother Yashoda, who caught Krishna and bound him despite all obstacles and impossibilities, and despite Krishna's being completely unattainable by yogis and munis and rishis. Thank you so much. I think we have to finish. We have 1 minute before Shingararati, right? Before deity greeting. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be of some service. And please forgive me if I haven't said something up to your liking or inspiration. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantha Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaura Premanande.